So the tech race is heating up. It's not just a battle for AI supremacy, it's a battle to control the future. Yes, tech companies will be on the front lines, but they won't be there alone, because as the race intensifies, politicians will step in. We are seeing that in the US already. Donald Trump has commented on the Deepseek breakthrough. He says it should be a wake-up call for Silicon Valley.
The release of Deepseek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that. They said.
So how will America respond? Their strategy has been two-pronged so far. The first is to choke the chip supply. You need advanced chips to make AI platforms. Most of them are made by NVIDIA. In fact, even Deepseek, as we just told you, was trained using NVIDIA chips. So the US has cut off this supply. They have barred the sale of advanced chips to China. That's the first strategy. The second strategy is investing at home. Joe Biden announced billions of dollars for the chip industry, and Donald Trump is building on that. He recently unveiled a massive private AI venture. It is worth $500 billion. The US will be hoping to replicate the space race. If you remember, they had a horrible start. The Soviet Union launched the first satellite. They also put the first man in space, but after that, it was one-way traffic. Not only did the US overcome the Soviet lead, they comprehensively won the space race. How did they manage to do that? Because space became a national mission. Private companies, government agencies, even ordinary people bought into it. That's the thing about American companies, in fact. They claim to be globalized institutions, but their loyalty clearly lies with the United States. Just look at Google. They plan to update their maps in the coming days. Do you know why? It is to rename the Gulf of Mexico. This is a water body shared by the US, Mexico, and Cuba. For centuries, it's been called the Gulf of Mexico, but President Donald Trump has renamed it. He's calling it the Gulf of America. The change has not been reflected in official documents yet. Once it is, Google Maps will be updated. Users in the US will see the water body as Gulf of America. What about those outside the US? They will see both names. Now, this is part of a broader trend, a marriage of convenience between big tech and the US government. And the benefits are quite clear. Big tech can influence US policy at home. They can also utilize America's outsized role in world affairs. For example, fines. Europe has accused big tech firms of antitrust violations. They've also fined the likes of Apple and Google. Collectively, these fines are worth $15 billion. President Trump says this is unfair, that foreign countries should not be fining US firms. He's also threatened tariffs in retaliation. So the benefit for these technology companies is quite clear. And what's in it for the US government? Well, they get access to user data, and they do. Also contracts with the military and leverage over rivals and allies. After all, big tech companies operate practically everywhere, so the success of China's Deepseek is a wake-up call. Not just for Silicon Valley, but for every country in the world. Tech sovereignty should be their ultimate goal. If you own the technology, you can regulate it. You can ensure it's free and fair. If you don't own it, you're just a spectator. You may have seen big tech CEOs dragged up to US Congress. Do you think that will happen anywhere else in the world? Do you think a Mark Zuckerberg will testify in Europe or India? He won't, because he's protected by the US government. With artificial intelligence, we're seeing the same thing. American companies and the US government are mobilizing to monopolize yet another industry. The question is, what can the rest of us do? What should countries like India do? For starters, Deepseek is an encouraging sign. It is not a multi-billion-dollar project. It was built on a very small budget. Until now, that was a big worry for countries like India. They were wary of splurging on AI training. But if it can be done for cheap, why not? Although there is a problem. Does India want an AI model like Deepseek? There are no indications from the government so far. Meanwhile, the private sector is split on this question. Infosys chairman Nandan Nilekani weighed in recently. He says India should not invest in large AI models. Instead, it should focus on practical applications of artificial intelligence. But homegrown AI bosses disagree. They say large models are necessary. This lack of clarity will hurt India's AI campaign. We need a national mission to create sovereign tech assets. We couldn't do that with past technologies, with the internet, with social media, with 4G and 5G, or even with smartphones for that matter. If we miss this AI bus, there could be a repeat. We're calling the show Vantage. We hope you like what we put together for you. Touted as the minimum defense from that video. India's neighbors were the first to send the special edition of Vantage live from the White House throughout this week. Yes, Hindu Mandir we're on our way to Tel Aviv. Pretty measure, but it's also the perfect way to drive.
I don't think that
Prime Minister of Bhutan, Sherin Tagwe. Welcome to
60% of the world's
office, Prime Minister Modi. Did the iron?
we were actually
How are you doing? How do you like? It's been 1 year since that meeting. Iron bars separate you from the outside. Out the vote effort. Trump had, it says, and at $4.3 trillion. 4.3 300 billion by 2030. That's what we need to tackle climate change.